Solidarity, solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. Victory, victory for us. Victory, victory. In the struggles for our members, there is victory for us. Forward, forward ever. Backwards never. In the struggles for our members, there is victory. Solidarity! Solidarity! Aluta! Victoria! Please have your seat. Thank you.
You are watching the 11th Triennial National Delegate Conference of the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria, TUC, reaching you live from the Nigerian Air Force Conference Center in Kado, Abuja, on Africa's largest television network. The conference is expected to elect new leadership to pilot the affairs of the Congress for another 3 years. My name is Emmanuel Ayemiro. I will be providing you with the highlights of the conference as the event progresses.
Already recognize the presence of Secretary to the Government of the Federation, who is sitting in at this occasion for the President and Commander-in-Chief himself. But we do have a number of seats still here, and would like straight away at this point to invite one or two people to come up here and take up some of the seats that are here. May I, at this point, call on Alhaji Umaru Namadi, Deputy Governor of Jigawa State, who is representing the governor, who is here. Please come up and take a seat here. Thank you very much. Let me also call on Comrade Chief Oluyemi Essence, SSA Labour, to the Governor of Ekiti State. He's here representing the Governor of Ekiti State, who is also the Chairman of the Nigeria Governors Forum, Dr. Kayode Fayemi. So please, let's invite Comrade Chief Oluyemi Essence to come up here and take a seat. May I also, at this point, also request Dr. Mahmoud Othman, who is Chairman, NECA, Northern Region, to please come forward. He is standing in at this occasion for the Director General of NECA. Thank you very much. Let's appreciate him as he comes out. Of course, as we know, the royal father of the day is His Royal Majesty Dr. Shehu Audu Badru II, First Class Chief of Mambila. He's been represented here by Dr. Ahmed Saleh Eminai, PR, Sandam Mambila is already seated. Let me also acknowledge the presence here of Major General U.S. Muhammad. He is Chief of Civil Military Relations. He's standing in for the Chief of Army Staff here. Welcome you. Distinguished comrades, ladies and gentlemen, one or two others will be asking to come up here. But for the meantime, let's quickly get started, because we do understand that Mr. Boss Mustafa, who is sitting in for his boss this morning, has a pretty tight schedule, and so we must move on as we continue with the acknowledgements later on. But safe to say, we'd like to acknowledge all of you here who are present here and welcome you to this Triennial Delegates Conference of the Trade Union Congress. Thank you for coming. Glory, over to you.
you very much. Solidarity. Solidarity. To move us further in the order of events, please permit me to invite no other than the chairman of the Conference Planning Committee for the 11th Triennial Delegates Conference. It's no other than Comrade Augustine Etafo to come forward for an address of welcome. Solidarity! Shall we encourage him? And before you take over, sir, please permit me invite Adamu D. Umar Gokaru, head of the Civil Service of Bauchi State, who's here representing his governor, His Excellency, the Governor of Bauchi State, to please step forward. Senator Bala Mohammed, His Excellency Senator Bala Mohammed, here represented by Adamu Gokaru, the head of the Service of Bauchi State. Mr. Tafo?
Solidarity. Solidarity. Good morning, gentlemen and ladies. On behalf of the Triennial Congress, I want to welcome you to our 11th Triennial Delegate Conference taking place in North Center Abuja. The representative of the President, the representative of the state governors that are here, ILO country representative that is here with us, our employer NECA, representative of NECA, representative of the Royal Fathers, our brother, the NLC president, the president of the Triennial Congress, and the representative of the Chief of Army Staff, and member of the High Table. You are all welcome to our 11th Triennial Delegate Conference. Comrades, you know why we are here. We are here today and tomorrow to elect people that will move our Congress forward. So you are all welcome to Abuja. We hope and pray that the conference will be a peaceful one, that things will go as planned. So if you have any question, you are free to ask any of our members, as the protocol department, people, you see them with that. You can call for anything you want and we will be there to respond to your need. So once again, let me all welcome you to Abuja for our 11th Triennial Delegate Conference. God bless you all.
Thank you very much. Must say, that welcome address is one of the briefest I ever witnessed. Thank you once again. Let's appreciate him. Comrades, we just like to acknowledge that Assistant Inspector General of Police H.H. Karma, is AIG Zone 7 Headquarters, Abuja, is right here. He's already seated. He's standing in for the Inspector General of Police. Let me quickly just recognize Comrade Isa Aremu, MNI, Vice President, Industrial Global Union, and of course, you know, he's the Secretary of the Textile Union. Comrade Isa Aremu. Solidarity. Comrades, I did say to you that this will be one event we'll have to speed up a number of things. The SGM does have a very tight schedule today. So if you look in your program, you might notice as we go on that a few amendments that have been made. So we'll keep you abreast of those amendments as we go on. But at this point in time, let me invite Professor Suleiman Mohammed, the Vice Chancellor of Nasarawa State University, who's a guest lecturer today. Let's acknowledge his presence and then invite him to please come up here. I do believe that there's still one seat there. Thank you very much. Where you could be. Thank you so much. Let me also acknowledge the presence of the book reviewer, Professor Joseph Abugu of the University of Lagos, is also here with us. Thank you for coming. Right, comrades, as I did say, we'll keep you abreast of all the amendments and slight changes we've done to the program. For now, we will skip a number of the items which you see in your program. We'll later come back to them. But so as we can get on with some other aspects and save time, may I at this point now invite the President of the Trade Union Congress, Comrade Oboy Bala Kegama, who will now step forward and deliver his valedictory address. Comrade.
Solidarity. Solidarity. Your Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, ably represented by our big brother, the Secretary to the Government of Federation, Comrade Boss Mustafa. The Honorable Minister of Labour, represented by the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Labour and Employment, and other comrades, Ali, alias 8.7. Those in ILO know that better. My brother and friend, the President of NLC, Comrade Ayuba Waba MNI. My principal, my boss, the APC gubernatorial candidate of Taraba, representative of the Chief of Army Staff, representative of the Inspector General of Police, who incidentally is my other brother, AIG Kama. Our social partners, the ILO country representative, country director, Brother Dennis Zulu, the representative of NECA, our chief employer, the representative of His Royal Highness, the First Class Chief of Mambila, His Majesty Dr. Shehu Audu Baju, ably represented by Zanam Mambila, Alhaji Saleh Ibn Ahmed, other dignitaries, for want of time, that are on the high table, because we are made to understand the representative of Mr. President has another function to attend. Members of the diplomatic corps, our veterans, from my immediate predecessor to the foundation of the Trade Union Congress, our brothers from our sister labor centers, members of NAC, members of CWC, of TUC, and our brothers, affiliate union NSC present, members of NEC of TUC, esteemed delegates of TUC, gentlemen of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. 11th Triennial Delegates Conference. Your Excellencies, traditional rulers, friends from within and outside the country, our own veterans and allies of the labor movement, we appreciate you for finding time to attend this august occasion, despite your tight schedules. Your presence Here means that you identify with our struggle and quest for a better society. Thank you so much. Comrades and friends, each time I address workers, I encourage them not to relent in the struggle for a new country. Most patriotic Nigerians have a picture of what a sane society should be, which is why they are worried at where we are presently. It is indeed making too long for the giant of Africa to assume her pride of place. On our part, we shall continue to fight until the horns that trouble our land are plucked off. The signs for a brighter future are here if we faint not. I commend those who rejected stomach infrastructure and shunned ballot box snatching in the last general elections. It was a strong signal to our slavers that it can no longer be business as usual. We commend your efforts. The theme of this year's conference, Labor and Nation Building, the place of labor in national politics, was chosen to school the few crop of politicians about the role the organized labor has played in the development of our dear country. The world history is replete with contributions to national development. Unionists and Marxist followers like Ivy Lenin, Fidel Castro, Ahmed Sekou Touré, President Modibo Keita of Mali, President Julius Nyerere of Tanzania, etc., mobilized to liberate their countries from the shackles of imperialism. Same with Nigeria, although we have not had a trade unionist as president, but it will happen soon. We commend the efforts of Pa Michael Imodu. We have Goodluck, Peace Obiajulu, Peter Esele, Ayuba Waba, my humble self, not to say of the chairman of the largest party in Africa, Comrade Adams Oshoman. These institutions still have their hold on us because successive leadership go cap in hand begging for loans, grants, etc. This is happening because Africa has failed to raise political philosophers like the Awos, the Ziks, the Amadou Bellos, the Nkrumahs of this world. This is disgusting and unfortunate. Big as this development, a need arose for a national rebirth. We formed and registered a political party called the Labour Party. The party has not done well due to a number of factors, but we have learned from our mistakes. It has become very necessary to get more serious with politics if we must bridge the artificial gap deliberately created by politicians. As it stands, it is a case of we and them, and their vote against ours. To change the state of affairs is not going to be easy, especially as some of our capitalists are now elected into political offices. They will always fight furiously to maintain status quo, but we are not going to be deterred by that, no matter how ferocious they are fighting. We are not going to yield to their pressure. Every progressive government will over the world involve the progressive when taking some strategic decisions that are capable of turning the fortune of the country, but ours is different. It is called no retreat, no surrender, because we are going to ensure that the 9th Assembly initiates and pass bills, laws that are progressive to the labor movement. State of the nation, insecurity. Fellow comrades, Nigeria is the most populated country in Africa, but not the most peaceful or successful. Our tale is that of anarchy and absurdity. Hardly a day passes by without news of killings, spate of bombing, assassinations, kidnappings, and suicide bombing. This seems to have overwhelmed our security operatives. Nowhere is safe now, including the homestead of Mr. President and the former Minister of Defense. Brookings Institute, a non-profit public policy organization based in the USA, has ranked our country as the poverty headquarters of the world. The Republic of Congo is second, and other smaller countries. Inflation rate, GDP per capita, etc., have all been badly affected by insecurity. Workers are losing jobs in droves, and economy now prostrate. The essence of government is to protect lives and secure properties. Unfortunately, it has not been the case in our country. Economy. Fellow comrades and guests, our economy is in the dire strike. Regrettably, those who should manage it are not showing promising signs on how to fix it. Comrades, why can't we know the number of barrels of crude we refine? Is it rocket science to publish how much we make from oil? Why should individuals mine our solid minerals in Zamfara, Plateau, etc.? With what the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, NIPOS, NMPC, NIMASA, NAPIMS, and the monies recovered by EFCC and IFCPC, Nigeria should not be borrowing. Inflation. Comrades, the country consumer price index, also known as inflation rate for goods and services, hovers between 11.28 and 11.44%. This of course has adverse effect on the purchasing power as it leads to bad debt for commercial banks, exchange rate, naira depreciation, and brings about uncertainty in the market. Unemployment struck poverty. Your Excellencies, the danger posed by unemployment and poverty to our peaceful existence and development is glaring for everyone to see. We believe that to stem the tide of cyber crimes, banditry, and other social vices ravaging the country, the youths have to be engaged. The Nigeria Bureau of Statistics, in a report, said youth unemployment rate decreased to 36.50% in the third quarter of 2018 from 38% in the second quarter of 2018. Your Excellencies, thousands of graduates join the unemployment market yearly. It is true that government cannot create all the jobs, but it can create an environment where business can strive. All the technical schools have phased out, likewise skill acquisition centers. Our school curriculum of the 60s and 70s are still what we are using at presently, unlike what we have in China, India, Malaysia, Rwanda, etc., who are moving with the moving time. All these countries have short-term, medium-term, and long-term plans. Policy somersault is an issue in Nigeria. Politicians fail to understand that government is a continuum. Why abandon projects initiated by your predecessor? Though some may argue that it also happens in other countries, even in the US and other developed climes. And very common with governors. Successive governments have spent billions of naira on the power sector, yet no headway. Comrades, the reason our country has continued to cement its status as poverty capital of the world is because of the abysmal rising number of the poor. Something is fundamentally wrong if about 61%, which is 90.8 million Nigerians, are living in extreme poverty. Why wouldn't they be crying? In this era of next level, we consider it expedient that government put its acts together to enable Nigeria move freely and also sleep with their two eyes closed. National Development Plan. There have been strategic initiatives since 1958 to reposition the economy. We had the Structural Adjustment Program, National Economic Empowerment and Development Strategy Needs, Millennium Development Goals, Vision 2020, among others. These are geared towards making the country one of the 20 leading economies in the world by 2020. China, Malaysia, USA, UK, even some African countries have such goals. These goals are critical to growth. Countries are considered developed when they meet the basic needs of their people. National development is carefully planned. We cannot continue to watch politicians midwife our national development planning in extinction. Comrades, how can we even talk about development when national budgets are passed in the middle of the year. It will definitely have consequential effect on the national economy and investors' interests. Your Excellencies, if we cannot follow laudable policies, then we cannot be said to have begun our pursuit for a better society. Corruption and good governance. Your Excellencies, the history of corruption in our country is absolute. The more you fight, the more perpetrators devise new means. They can divert anything, but cannot divert the country out of poverty. Chronism, ethnicity, and religion most times inflate the effort to redeem the country. There is no sincerity of purpose in the struggles. The best form of governance will abhor corruption, same way a corrupt administration will not be interested in promoting good governance. Your Excellencies, while we commend government on its efforts so far, they should also know that it is not over. In his book entitled The Trouble with Nigeria, late novelist Chinua Achebe largely blamed the nation's dilemma on leadership failures. Though that book was written 34 years ago, but now many of our leaders haven't read it. New national minimum wage. I wish to once again use this opportunity to appreciate all our parties that have made the new national minimum wage possible. The increment, we believe, will put smiles on the faces of workers and also boost the economy. We commend states that have agreed to pay and also warn those governors who claim not to have the resources. The workers are angry. Oil and gas. Comrades, the federal government and the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation have done well by ensuring a steady fuel supply. Be that as it may, we propose that the adoption of the NLNG business model for the refineries be adopted. Education sector. Education is development. It determines the extent to which any individual, organization, or country can develop. Unfortunately, government does not see it that way. Maybe because politicians can afford to send their words abroad for studies. The time to adopt Finland, China, Malaysia model is now. It is abysmally poor and insulting that in 2018, Uganda funded education with 27% of her annual budget. This is in Africa. The 9th Assembly. Comrades, while I would like to congratulate the leadership of the red and the green chambers, it is also important that I remind them that our country is in the emergency room, gasping for breath, and her survival will be determined by laws shown out. Many of us were made to believe that the 8th Assembly was the reason the country failed to make significant progress in the last administration. Now that an election was conducted and people emerged without any crisis, we expect to see the National Assembly that is focused, intelligent, peaceful, and pro-people. The organized labor will not condone unbridled greed, laziness, indolence, or any form of anti-people laws in this administration. They have no reason to fear. No more excuses. Conclusion. As we celebrate, it is hoped that generation unborn shall have a country they will be proud of. A country where religion, ethnicity, and all forms of discrimination will no longer count. Validatory speech. Your Excellencies and comrades, I have much to be thankful for. We have succeeded in almost all we have set out to do because of the support I received from you esteemed delegates. The path was full of thorns, but we had pushed on because we made a vow to the workers and Nigerians. We were prepared to move on and to take on whatever challenges come next in our lives. During our stewardship, we were able to unionize some affiliates, resolve crisis at all affiliates and state councils, vote a new national minimum wage, 30,000 naira for workers, make significant progress in our housing projects in Abuja and across the country. Fellow comrades, I consider my service as President of the Congress as another level of school. What I have learned so far has further shaped my thought and perception to issues. These past 6 years have presented me with a lot of ups and downs, but I had my family and well-experienced comrades in the movement by my side. Thank you all. Special thanks to members of the Association of Senior Civil Servants of Nigeria who believed in me despite the persecution I suffered in the hands of my state government. I will not be here today without you. In the course of trying to pursue our dreams and aspirations, I might have offended some people. This includes government, officials of government, and my fellow comrades. I can assure you it was not deliberate. It is usually not in my character to offend people. We needed it because it was necessary. Finally, I knew a day like this will come and emotionally prepared for it. The truth is, we have shared wonderful times together, and I shall remain eternally thankful to you all. I wish to appeal that you continue to provide support, encouragement for each other in our future endeavors. Above all, comrades, I plead with you to rally support for whoever takes over from me. Comrades, I want to seize this opportunity. Today, I'm addressing you with deep heart. Deep heart because we prepared, we planned. They say, you plan, but God disposes. I lost one of my deputies who incidentally, if not for the cool hands of death, would have succeeded me unopposed. Comrade Effort Johnson, can we stand up for a minute's silence for him, please? May the soul of Effort Johnson rest in perfect peace. Effort Johnson was the president of Engasan, and we pray that the family, Engasan, and the TUC, and the entire labor movement will bear the loss. Thank you, long live TUC. Long live Nigerian workers. Long live Civil Society of Nigeria. Long live the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Solidarity.
That was the outgoing president of the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria, Comrade Boboy Balak Higaman. That speech is likely to be his last as TUC president, as he has completed his 2 terms of 3 years in office, beginning from June 2013 to June 2016, and later from 2016 till date. Although the focus of the conference is the place of labor in national politics, Comrade Boboy used the occasion to call on members of the organized labor to get involved in politics and not leave the game to politicians alone. According to him, the job of nations building should not be left in the hands of a category of persons.
Comrades, please have your seats. Thank you very much. I think, and if you think he captured anything, let's make it an ovation, a standing ovation. Thank you so very much. Please have your seats. Before we go into the next item on the program, please permit me recognize the arrival of the chairman of today's Delegate Conference. He's no other than Barrister Femi Falana, SAN. When we had recognized the Deputy Governor of Jigawa State earlier, he was out, but he's back. His Excellency Malam Umar Namadi, Deputy Governor, Jigawa State. We also have in our midst, representing the Governor of Benue State, Haska Baba. Haska Baba, please. We also have from the Trust Fund, Nasir Musa. Nasir Musa, please. We also have here former president of the TUC. Let's start with agenda balance. Mama Peace Obiajulu, please. Our agenda. Our agenda. Thank you very much. We also have former TUC president, Comrade Peter Esele. We also have Comrade Oyinkansola Olasonoye, the chairperson of TUC Women Commission and national president ASBIFI. Our agenda. We also have the incoming chairperson of the TUC Women Commission, Comrade. Our agenda. We also have in our midst from the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies of the National Assembly, Dr. John Ni Olaruwaju. Thank you. Your agenda is our agenda, so we agree. And so to move us forward in the order of things, please, men, you have always had your agenda. Permit us have our agenda. Our agenda. It's now time to hear Mr. President. He is a special guest of honor, the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, here ably represented by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, your boss, my boss, our boss, Mr. Boss Mustafa.
Please be seated. Let me start by truly apologizing that I forced you to abridge your program so that it suits into mine. It's not all intended, but because I have to catch up with a series of other for 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock. So my sincere apologies for abridging your agenda, but I believe that you're going to have a wonderful conference. Let me start. Mr. Chairman of Conference, Femi Falana, SAN, the President of TUC, Comrade Dr. Boboy Kaigama, the President of NFC, Comrade Ayuba Waba, the guest speaker at this conference, Professor Suleiman Mohammed, Vice Chancellor of Nasarawa State University, former presidents of TUC, the Deputy Governor of Jigawa State, representing his governor, and representatives of the governors of Ekiti, Bauchi, and Benue states, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Labor and Employment, Mr. William Allo, the representative of the Chief of Army Staff, the representative of the Inspector General of Police, the representative of the Royal Father of the Day, the Chief of Mambila, the ILO representative, Mr. Dennis Zulu, distinguished delegates at this conference, ladies and gentlemen. I am delighted to be here today at the 11th Triennial National Conference of the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria with the theme Labor and National Building, the place of labor in national politics. I thank the leadership of the TUC, especially Comrade Dr. Boboy Bala Kaigama, Tafid and Mambila, Comrade Barrister Musa Lawal Ozigi, MNI, for inviting me to be part of this conference. This conference is coming at a time that Nigeria needs every sector of the economy to contribute towards nation building as we move to the next level. And this does not exclude the labor union. This administration remains committed to making Nigeria a better place. As I said in my inaugural speech read during the 2019 Democracy Day, we are mapping out policies, measures, and laws to maintain our unity and at the same time lift the bulk of our people out of poverty and onto the road to prosperity. The security challenges we are currently facing are not unsurmountable, and I can report that we are meeting these challenges with much greater support to the security forces in terms of funding, equipment, improved local intelligence, and international collaboration. We are meeting these challenges with superior firepower and strategy, and also resolve. I therefore assure you, and indeed all Nigerians, that we shall win the war against terrorism, kidnapping, and banditry. We shall also resolve all forms of domestic clashes arising from economic and social-cultural interests. Comrades, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we have tried to build a solid foundation for our dear country in the last 4 years. These efforts have begun to yield results. The economy is making a steady progress, and our GDP is expected to grow by 2.7% this year. Our external reserves have risen to $45 billion and can finance a number of our foreign commitments. With the steps taken to integrate rural economies to the national grid, provide credits and input to rural farmers and micro businesses, as well as providing the enabling environment for business in Nigeria, our people will be liberated from the shackles of poverty. We will, over the next 10 years, create at least 10 million jobs yearly in order to boost our economy and make life better for our people. This government will continue to improve on our national development plans and initiatives. Focus will be on agriculture, education, power, and other infrastructure, manufacturing, and social intervention schemes. Suffice it to state that we have progressed tremendously in the area of food security and almost self-sufficient in rice production. In the midst of all this, we shall promote good governance and fight corruption totally by strengthening institutions, and machineries of the state. If we don't kill corruption, we will not be able to have a country that we can be good or hand over to our unborn generations. Hence the need for everyone to be involved in this fight to finish. Dear comrades, my administration believes in the welfare of workers, and that is why I have signed the minimum wage bill into law, and implementation is underway. I implore both the state governments and the private sector to give their workers a decent living wage, to encourage workers to contribute to our economy and the overall development of our nation. The federal government acknowledges the collaborative support it has received from the labor union, especially the TUC, since the inception of this administration. Members of this union participated actively in developing the drafting of the various policy documents that have led to the development of roadmaps in the country. Members of this union are also involved in several aspects of the implementation of these roadmaps. It is the belief of government that the synergy and collaboration will be strengthened as we move forward. Let me use this opportunity to state that the executive arm of government is committed to have a smooth and good working relationship with the labor unions in Nigeria as we go higher. I wish to congratulate you once again on the hosting of this Triennial conference. I wish you a very successful event. And on this note, I hereby declare the 11th Triennial National Delegates Conference open, and thank you so much for your attention, and I wish you a wonderful deliberation. Thank you, and God bless you. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Barr, standing in for President Muhammadu Buhari. Let's appreciate the SGF one more time. Distinguished delegates, we SGF, sir, we do appreciate that your schedule is rather tight, but this is a plea on behalf of the entire delegates. We promise not to take more than a few more moments of your time. You would recall that the chairman of today's occasion, Mr. Femi Falana, SAN, came in not quite long ago. And the reason being that his driver could not quickly find his way here, saying that he was carrying such a personality, a legal luminary such as Mr. Falana. But finally, he's made his way here. So this rather unusual request we're making of the SGF is that at this point in time, we ask that Mr. Femi Falana quickly makes an opening remark as chairman of the occasion. Mr. Boss Mustafa, thank you very much, sir, for accepting our request.
The Secretary of the Government of the Federation, my very learned colleague, Mr. Boss Mustafa, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I want to apologize for my coming late. My driver was really not going to court. He was afraid that we were going to a military center, and he couldn't believe that we want to go to a center of the military. I think that was why he was afraid to come here. So I apologize for my coming late. Having said that, I want to congratulate the TUC, a wonderful organization in Africa, for leading our people aright, together with Nigerian Labour Congress and other labor unions. The place of labor in nation building cannot be overemphasized. The Nigerian Constitution, chapter 2, is very clear on that the wealth, that the national wealth, the commonwealth, shall not be allowed to be concentrated in the hands of a few people or a group. That's the Constitution. It goes further to say that the national wealth shall be deployed by government to promote national security, national prosperity, and the welfare of our people. In fact, Section 14 specifically says that the welfare and the security of the Nigerian people shall be the primary purpose of government. Therefore, knowing that the ruling class will not allow the government to promote security and welfare, the Nigerian Labour Congress, the Trade Union Congress, and others have forced the ruling class to concede certain laws to promote the welfare of workers. Happily, President Buhari has just signed one of the laws, the national minimum wage. Please, what Section 16 provides for is a living minimum wage. The national minimum wage of 30,000 naira, you will all agree with me, is not a living minimum wage. But at least it was a battle to increase that minimum wage from 18 to 30,000 naira. Apart from that law, we have the National Pensions, the Pension Reforms Act. We have the National Health Insurance Act. And of course, we have the Employees Compensation Act, as well as the Factories Act. All these laws are observing their breach. I'm therefore going to challenge you and challenge the government. In order for the government to ensure that minimum wage is paid by state governments, the federal government must sit down with labor to ensure that the wealth of our country is not dissipated. And that is why I'm going to call on Nigerian workers to collaborate with the federal government to fight corruption to a standstill. Because you are the greatest victims of corruption. You can't make it the business of government. We must own the fight. Particularly for state government. I'm happy some of them are here. In those days, all of us, when you travel by air, in the morning, the pilot will say, "Good morning, Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen." No longer, nobody says that again. All our governors now fly charter jets. You can't pay minimum wage if you have to charter jet. I'm therefore going to call on the federal government to collaborate with the Labour Congress. Thank you very much. Thank you. Now, I'm going to call on the Nigerian Labour Congress, the TUC, please, at this program, you must set up a committee that will sit down with real economists, and I'm not talking of the central bank, I'm talking of real economists, pro-workers economists, that will let you know that this country is one of the richest countries in the world. Please, this one, I just filed a case last week. Unfortunately, the Secretary of Government has just left. A government agency, NTA, has disclosed to all of us that the federal government has refused to collect $22 billion and 376 billion naira in the custody of NNPC. Money that should have gone to the federation account and distributed by all tiers of government to take care of Nigeria. Secondly, for the past 18 years, the federal government of Nigeria refused to collect about $60 billion from oil companies under the Offshore Inland Contracts Basin Act. 3 state governments went to court last year. The Supreme Court gave a judgment on the 18th of October. Federal government, thou shalt collect these outstanding royalties of the past 18 years. The federal government has refused. to implement that judgment. I therefore beg you, Labour, TUC, NSC, all of you, please let us collect all these monies and monitor the disbursement of the money so that it's not, privately diverted in the interest of our people. I thank you for this opportunity, and I want to assure you that if Labour is ready to fight for the enforcement of the laws I have cited this morning, we have a team of lawyers that will be prepared to render their services to the labor movement of Nigeria free of charge. Thank you very much.
Solidarity! 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 Please, a round of applause for our chairman. 5 Bosa for our chairman. Bosa! 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 Thank you so very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. So we go forward now to the next. We go forward now to hear from the man who is wearing a double cap. At this point in time, when ministers have not been designated, he is serving both as the Permanent Secretary and the Minister of Labor and Employment. Please welcome Mr. William Allo for a keynote address. Please, a round of applause for him.
For giving me a listing. Okay. His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Muhammad Buhari, GCFR, ably represented here some few minutes ago by my own Oga, my boss Mustafa, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. The chairman of today's function, I refer to you, a social crusader, Femi Falani San, a legal icon. The president of the NLC here present, I refer to you, my own dear friend, worldwide global comrade Ayuba Waba, a dependable partner, Dr. Comrade Bobiyu Kaigama, the President Trade Union Congress, the outgoing president, and the People's President. I recognize your presence. Men and women of timber caliber here present in the high table, fellow comrades, ladies and gentlemen, Alota continue. Forward forever. I'm happy for the opportunity given me to speak briefly in a Goodwill message to enable me rush and go and fight for you for the implementation of the new minimum wage. I feel highly delighted to be here in your midst. I'm not delivering a keynote address. I'm only making very few remarks in the form of a goodwill message. So I feel highly delighted to be in your midst as a special guest of honor on this auspicious occasion of your 11th Triennial National Delegates Conference holding today, the 27th day of June, 2019, in this serene center of Abuja. I commend the organizers for the choice of venue of this occasion as being held in the federal capital, Abuja, as its people are known for their warm hospitality. The activities of today would have significant impact on the future direction of your great Congress because it symbolizes the end of the tenure of the outgoing executive and the beginning of the tenure of the new ones who are to be elected to run the affairs of your Congress for the next 3 years. The occasion will provide the Congress the platform to do an in-depth appraisal of its performance and challenges in the last 3 years and profile more innovative ways of surmounting the identified challenges. Fellow comrades, I want to commend your efforts at the organization of this all-important National Delegates Conference with distinguished delegates drawn from all over your affiliate trade unions in the country. It is indeed very historic and remarkable, and I hope that the incoming executive will sustain, I quote, will sustain the good performance of the outgoing executive for the past 3 years. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me thank the outgoing executive once more of your estimate Congress under the leadership of Comrade Dr. Boboye Bala Kaigama on the ways they have piloted the affairs of the Congress in the last 3 years with unity of purpose, transparency, and doggedness. This brought about the landmark achievements recorded in the Congress. The outgoing executives have demonstrated their leadership acumen in the improvement of the welfare of the Nigerian workers, and especially in promoting socio-economic development of our dear country. Their participation and incisive contribution during the period of national minimum wage negotiation, which led to the adoption of 30,000 naira minimum wage as the new national minimum wage for Nigerian workers, are worthy of mention and emulation. The TUC really participate actively and did a lot in getting to where we are today in the issue of minimum wage. They deserve an applause, please. I also wish to commend them, the TUC, for their cooperation with the federal government to ensure industrial peace and harmony in the country. The importance of the Congress in the nation's development under their leadership is inestimable. This administration will forever remain grateful to them. Let me at this juncture commend the loyalty of all the affiliate trade unions of the Congress that supported these indefatigable and astute leaders in recording these outstanding achievements. Without such support and cooperation, nothing would have been achieved. Finally, as you prepare to go for an election, let me remind you of the need to allow good conscience, fairness, integrity, and above all, the interest and the future of the Congress to guide the choices you will make in this election. I enjoin you to be sure, to make sure and insist that the election be free and fair, be record-free, acceptable, credible, and to be adjudged as the best election Nigeria ever had. While wishing you a successful election, it is my single honor and privilege to once more say thank you for the support the TUC has been giving to the federal government of Nigeria. The Ministry of Labor and Employment will continue to remain your dependable ally in the fight for the interests of the Nigerian workers. Once more, I say thank you, and may God bless you. Alota continue.
I think we can do better. Please encourage him with a round of applause. Before we move forward to the meat of this Triennial conference, which would be the public dialogue, permit me to recognize former president of the TUC and former president of Pengasan, Comrade Shina Luoye. Comrade Shina Luoye, please. And also in our midst, we have Luis Ernesto Pineda, Deputy Counselor of the Venezuelan Embassy. Luis, thank you very much for coming. It's now time to hear from the Vice Chancellor of the Nasarawa State University, who in 30 minutes will be filling us in on labor and nation building, the place of labor in national politics. Please join me as we welcome Professor Suleiman Mohammed. Please say a round of applause to him. Professor Suleiman Mohammed. Thank you.
The chairman of this conference, comrades, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to start by congratulating the president and members of TUC on this very historic and echo-making conference. I want to express the greetings and solidarity from the entire staff of National State University at this very important occasion. Secondly, I want to express my profound appreciation for giving me the opportunity to speak at this conference. It is an opportunity that I cherish, and it is an opportunity that will be in my memory for a very long time. I decided to accept the invitation because I share the aspiration of Nigerian labor movement for industrial justice and for a fight against imperialist domination of Nigeria. You know that over time, a neocolonial capitalist system has been foisted on Nigeria with a ruling class that has been very decadent, backward-looking, and parasitic. And they have used the instrument of the state to further their own interests. It is only through labor, as articulated by the chairman, that we can fight and expand the democratic space and ensure nation building. And therefore, when this invitation came to me, I saw it as an opportunity so that I can share my thoughts with you. I have decided to amend the topic slightly. I was requested to write on labor and nation building, the place of labor in national politics. But I've altered it to read labor union, nation building, and democratic struggles in Nigeria. And my central thesis in this paper is that labor unions have played a monumental role in ensuring the protection and the defense of their members from the colonial period to date. They have contributed enormously in ensuring industrial justice. Aside that responsibility, they have also played a critical role in the development of Nigeria. In fact, they have challenged neoliberal policies. They have challenged privatization. They have challenged deregulation. They have challenged the complete sale of Nigeria to a tiny clique of parasites. And in the process, they have expanded the democratic space. But labor also have their own challenge. The challenge really has not made labor to go as far as some of us would have wished. In this paper, therefore, I want to provide a brief history on labor movements in Nigeria and then discuss the contributions of labor to nation building, the contributions of labor to democratic struggle, and then identify the prospects and challenges of labor in nation building and democratic struggle. And then I will end up with recommendation. I understand the challenge of time, and therefore I'll just speak to the paper and raise a few issues for the consideration of the conference. I believe that the organizers of the conference will make this paper available to participants. My submission on the history of labor in Nigeria is that it started during the colonial era. With the effective colonization of Nigeria, the emergence of colonial bureaucracy, and the emergence of some industries, workers needed to organize. Workers needed to unionize so that they can protect and defend their interests from arbitrariness and impunity of employers, and particularly also the colonial state. But the colonial state also developed at the initial period a laissez-faire attitude. They were neither interested about formation of unions, nor were they concerned about the activities of the union, until in the late 30s and 40s, when the bureaucracy had expanded and quite a number of unions had emerged among railway workers, among teachers, that they started putting interest. But it is important to note that these unions were concerned principally with the interest and welfare of their members, and also with the struggle against colonialism. And I think history has documented the enormous contribution of labor movement in the anti-colonial struggle. The nature and character of the union during the colonial era simply reflected the dynamics of colonial exploitation. By 1960, the transition was effected from colonialism to neo-colonialism. The character and nature of the unions did not change significantly. The only thing that changed was simply the context of imperial domination. Now you have a neo-colonial elites who are not just serving their own interests, but also serving the interests of their foreign masters, who were more vicious. And in the context of that, we have seen how primitive accumulation and plunder of the country has really created enormous problems, part of which was the complete political instability, leading to a succession of military juntas, coups and counter-coups, to the point that the country was completely politically unstable. The neoliberal economic policies pursued after the oil boom created massive problems because it created two classes: tiny class of parasites who depended on government, and a majority who are wallowing in poverty. The economic crisis manifested everywhere in terms of mass poverty, unemployment, inflation, collapsing social services, and so on and so forth. The response of the ruling class, unfortunately, was to introduce structural adjustment. Progressive Nigerians, including workers, have rarely mentioned that there is nothing to adjust in the economy. The economy needed total overhaul. And therefore, the work of labor was well cut out. It had to defend the interests of the workers in this neo-colonial era, particularly that you have various kinds of dictatorships, from military to civilian, who were really more concerned with self-survival and aggrandizement than the interests of majority of the people. Therefore, the question of industrial justice became central. But beyond industrial justice, you have majority of the people wallowing in poverty, need, and desperation. And therefore, labor had to take special interest in governance issues. They have to take special interest on policy matters. And we have seen over time, based on the crisis in the economy, that government also tried to intervene in terms of dealing with labor. There are cases of ban, prescription, and so on that unions have had to face. From a single trade labor center, we got to a point where we have at least now 2 trade union centers with the emergence of TUC. But the good thing is that labor movements in Nigeria are united. They are committed to the defense of the workers, and they are committed to the interests of ordinary Nigerians. And the history of labor really shows that Nigerian labor movement is really one of the most vibrant in the continent of Africa. We have a labor union that has a history of militancy. We have a labor union which has anti-state posture, because labor has waged all kinds of struggles, from strikes to lockouts to street protests, to agitate against unpopular policies, to agitate against state policies. In the context of this brief history, you then realize that labor plays a very important role in nation building. And my submission is that when you talk about nation, it is very important that you look at this nation in the context of a nation state. And if you look at it in the context of a nation state, then you will understand the class struggle and contradictions that are contained therein. And it is only in the context of that that you can understand the behavior of the ruling class and the responsibility of labor in that case. And therefore, for me, what I've decided to look in terms of nation building is in terms of building the Nigerian state. And I've argued that labor has played a central role in nation building in Nigeria. First, it is through labor that we produce goods and services. All the factors of production put together cannot produce anything. It is through the labor of workers that we can produce. And we have seen this production in various aspects of the nation, in the economy. And I've also argued that labor has contributed enormously in manufacturing, in agriculture, in mining, in public service, in government policy formulation and policy implementation. These are all critical or essential for nation building. And of course, the records are available that labor has done very well in that regard. Even where we have challenges, I believe that there are challenges that have emanated from leadership. It is not really because labor have not been doing the needful. But the other areas that we can also consider is in the area of uniting this country. You have a ruling class that over the years have maintained the colonial divide and rule system. And they kept manipulating and politicizing identities, whether religion, whether ethnicity, whether region, whether geography. And because of that, the country has remained divided. It is only labor that has preached the message of unity and solidarity. And so I believe that in nation building in Nigeria, labor has played a critical role in maintaining the unity of Nigeria, because the elites we have are really more concerned with how to divide our people, because it is only through that division that they can maintain their hegemony. And I believe labor has helped in this regard, not just uniting people, but also sending the message that there is no contradiction between Muslims and Christians, no contradiction between different ethnicities. What we have is simply manipulation. The manipulation has gone so far. If you take the area of religion, you have seen how they have divided our people. But we keep telling people that that is not the form of religion we know. We know about revolutionary theology. In Latin America, bishops and pastors told the people that the God they worship is not a God of exploitation and oppression, and therefore invited them to fight colonialism in the name of God. In South Africa, the Anglican Bishop Desmond Tutu told the Anglican community that apartheid was anti-God, and they have to unite and fight apartheid in the name of God. In Iran, Ayatollah Khomeini was able to mobilize the Iranian people to fight the Shah dynasty because it was un-Islamic. And so religion can be used for progress, but you have a backward ruling class that really we have to confront. And so my argument is that Labour has played a decisive role, but the most critical role is really in terms of challenging some of these policies that have contributed in the impoverishment of Nigerians. And I give specific examples. Take the structural adjustment program. There was a national debate in 1985, and the consensus among Nigerians is that we don't need structural adjustment program. But the military junta went ahead and implemented SAP, manifested in privatization, deregulation, and so on, devaluation. And Nigerian Labour, alongside other pro-democracy and human rights groups, agitated and mitigated the consequences of structural adjustment. Take privatization. And if you look at the logic of capitalism, state-funded resources, enterprises, and you argue that they're not doing well when the whole problem is management. And in selling them, you're selling it to your cronies. So, Labour has been in the forefront against the fight against neoliberal policies. Labour has fought privatization. Labour has fought deregulation. Labour has fought hike in electricity tariff. Labour has insisted on accountability, good governance, and anti-corruption. And I'm sure Labour has done a number of protests to sensitize Nigerians on the need to support matters pertaining anti-corruption. Labour has taken up National Assembly on quite a number of policy matters, except their salary, which I think we can still do. So they have taken them on that. So we believe that Labour has contributed enormously to national development. On democracy, Labour has contributed in 3 fronts. First, fight against military rule. Of course, you know that we have had some of the most vicious military dictatorships that you can ever have. Number 2, Labour has challenged transition to civil rule program organized by military juntas, largely serving their class interests. And thirdly, Labour has participated in entrenching and consolidating democracy. Labour has done that in alliance with pro-democracy and human rights groups. And that is why the Nigerian Labour movement is very special because of its capacity to not just unite members, but to also carry along pro-democracy and human rights groups. In all this, Labour has fought for the expansion of the democratic space. And Labour has insisted that democratic principles and regulations be followed. One area that is very interesting is the fight for the actualization of June 12 election. Labour was in the forefront alongside other pro-democracy activists when the Babangida junta annulled the June 12 election, essentially to perpetuate military rule, because the transition was never ever designed to transit. And that was why he had to annul that election. But pro-democracy forces, including Labour, said no. In most cases, this fight was even underground. There are activists here who participated. That's singular act has laid a solid foundation for Nigerian democracy. The role of labor in the struggle for democracy has been well documented. But what is interesting is the attempt by labor to establish a labor party. And we all know how it ended. The comrade president of TUC also alluded to it. This really brings us to the ideological question about the role of labor movement. We have to be very clear. Are we just going to continue with petit bourgeois labor activism? Or are we really willing to take a Marxist alternative where we're looking for a reformation of the status quo? Because if you believe a labor party controlled by labor will participate in the democratic process, get people elected, and then they will come and change the situation, I think that is a myth. Because by the nature and character of bourgeois democracy or liberal democracy that we practice, before you are even incorporated, before you even get elected, you'll have to make fundamental compromises. Not to think that you'll have a party of your own. Can that party compete with ruling or major opposition parties? Remember the character of politics, highly monetized. And therefore, I believe that the alternative is to understand that the system as it is really needs to be changed completely. It is a revolutionary struggle that we'll have to stand for. The working class must align and must rigorously organize, be disciplined, have an ideology, and try to change the status quo. No matter how we think we can refurbish, no matter how we think we can reform liberal democracy, we're not likely going to make any impact. Because the democracy is a democracy for the rich, to serve the interests of the rich. That is the truth. That is why somebody was talking about salary differences between parliamentarians and other workers, as if we're not living in the same country. Because it is a system that was designed to serve the interests of the petty bourgeois class in Nigeria. And what we need is an alternative to that system. It's not to rehabilitate it, because you can't rehabilitate it. Because even the class in control of the system have their masters. There is metropolitan bourgeoisie that control what they do. They are largely comparadors. They are comparadors. And so what we need really is not an issue of party. I therefore concluded that in terms of struggle for democracy, Labour has occupied a front seat in Nigeria. It has occupied a front seat. Whether against militarism, or whether in the course of transition to civil rule, or whether in the course of entrenching democracy. But of course, as we all know, a lot of work needed to be done because the project is not yet accomplished. I argue that in terms of prospects and challenges, that Labour has good prospects of fighting neocolonial capitalism in Nigeria, challenging neoliberal policies, and bringing a just and egalitarian society, which both the NLC and the TUC are committed to creating. We believe that Labour can really attain this just and egalitarian society, but it will require enormous work. We will have to be very clear about our ideological orientation. We will have to be very strict about our organization and discipline. Not just in terms of formality of the organization, having NAC, having central committee, having state chapters. No, in terms of a more disciplined organization. Because, for example, we have seen situations where national minimum wage of 18,000 was declared. The federal government was paying. Majority of the states were not paying. And Labour looked helpless. There are state chapters that are supposed to take on the struggle because power will never ever give anything without a demand. It will never. It was therefore the responsibility of the states to fight. But once you begin to have traces of labor aristocracy, once you begin to have issues of psychophancy in the labor movement, once state chapters are surrendering themselves to the governors, they cannot fight. But it is not that the state are surrendering that is our problem. But it is at the national level, we have failed to develop a mechanism where we force them to take the fight. This matter is critical because the president has signed a 30,000 minimum wage. The SSG just made an appeal to state governments and to private sector. Is it supposed to be a matter of appeal? Is it not a law? Should it not be implemented? The governors, are they not taking the same benefits? Has any governor said his state is poor and it's not going to take as much as Lagos? Why would they discriminate against Nigerian workers? They will discriminate. It is our responsibility to fight. If we don't challenge them, if we don't ask questions, if we don't do the normal thing, protest, strike, we cannot get what we want. And therefore, conference members must really take as a matter of reality that this new minimum wage must not just be implemented in Abuja. It must be implemented in Abia and Sokoto and in all the 36 states of Nigeria. The chairman of the state chapters will have a responsibility to do that. And so I believe that labor unions have great prospects in terms of ensuring or improving industrial justice and also fighting neo-colonial imperialism in Nigeria. But there are challenges like we have mentioned. Some of these challenges are in the area of ideology. We have to clarify our ideology very well. We have to be sure of the ideas we are pursuing. There has to be a commensurate organization. There has to be discipline in pursuing that. The issue of financial autonomy is very, very important. As long as we remain tied to government in terms of seeking support for our activities, we are going to be susceptible to manipulation. We must create avenues of independent revenue, so much so that we can go on strike and pay workers. When government say no work, no pay, we will just do like ASU has been doing. No pay, no work. Because the work we do is not necessarily compartmented into months. But we must have the capacity to give workers an alternative means of livelihood. We must be very clear about ideology. We must be clear about organization. We must be clear and fight against traces of labor aristocracy. Because what we have seen in the state is disturbing. What we have seen in the state is disturbing. TUC and NLC must ensure that the state chapters live up to their responsibility. There must be a national mechanism. There has to be proper monitoring. And of course, members must be conscientized so that they can even challenge anti-democratic tendencies within the union. I believe that these are really the areas that we should look at them again. I believe we are on course because our goal is clear. I believe our modus operation is also known and we have used it effectively. I believe we have made some some gains, but the challenges are enormous. And we have to be very clear that it is not just industrial justice and reforming neocolonial capitalism. It is about changing neocolonial capitalism. It is about a socialist transformation. And therefore, if that is our goal, our ideology must be clear. Our organization must be clear. We must be disciplined towards achieving that. And there are a lot of allies that are really going to support us. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, a luta continua, Victoria has said. Thank you very much. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. There is victory for us. There is victory for us. In the struggle for our members, there is victory for us.
That was Professor Suleiman Mohammed, Vice Chancellor, Nasarawa State University. Himself and several others have been speaking on the theme of the conference, which is labor in nation building, the place of labor and national politics. The idea is to encourage active participation of members of the organized labor in politics. It will interest you to know that the Trade Union Congress has come a long way. It began in 1976 when the Michael Abiola Commission was set up by the military government to sanitize and rationalize labor climate in Nigeria. Later, in 1980, it became Federation of Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, and then Senior Staff Consultative Association of Nigeria, and finally, Trade Union Congress of Nigeria.
And he's sitting right there next to Comrade Peace Obiajulu, herself a former president. And interestingly, of course, both Comrade Ohindasi and Comrade Peace Obiajulu came from the Senior Staff Association of Utilities, Statutory Corporations, and Government-Owned Companies. And they both became presidents of the TUC. So let's appreciate that one more time. Thank you very much. Let me also acknowledge the presence here of Assistant Commandant General Obafai Shem, who is representing the Commandant General of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps. We appreciate your presence here. Again, recognition for Milton Dabibi, a former General Secretary of Pengasan and also of the TUC. We appreciate your presence here. Thank you. All right. Comrades, at this point in time, let me now invite, for the purpose of giving a brief remark here, the Deputy Governor of Jigawa State, Alhaji Umaru Namadi, who is standing in for the governor, to come forward now and deliver a brief address. Let's put our hands together for Alhaji Umaru Namadi, Deputy Governor of Jigawa State.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I would like to stand on the existing protocol. Mr. Chairman, I want to use this opportunity to congratulate the TUC and indeed the entire labor movement for successfully combating a professor and an administrator to a very patriotic and passionate unionist. I therefore encourage the labor unions to have more engagement with the professor because of his passion for unionism. I think that's very good. That apart, Mr. Chairman, on behalf of His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Jigawa State, Alhaji Muhammad Badr Abubakar, MON, MNI, I wish to congratulate the TUC for successfully hosting this conference, and also to congratulate the entire labor movement for successfully driving a very patriotic and peaceful struggle that culminated into signing into law of the national minimum wage. That's a very good task, and accept the congratulations and appreciation of His Excellency Alhaji Muhammadu Badr Abubakar. To that effect, the Jigawa State government, under the leadership of Alhaji Muhammadu Badr Abubakar, asked me to assure the unions that the government will implement the national minimum wage as enacted. Already an adequate provision has been made in the 2019 budget for the successful implementation of the national minimum wage. And the governor asked me to also express his solidarity that he is with you in spirit, even though he's not with you physically. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Governor. Comrades, at this point in time, let me bring to the podium one that we all love to hear. Please put your hands together as I invite Comrade Ayuba Waba, President of the Nigeria Labour Congress. Solidarity.
Solidarity. Solidarity. Thank you very much. The protocol seems to be very long, but I will try to adopt. But I know in Labour Palace, there is no way you can adopt a protocol without recognizing our veterans, and particularly the veterans of the TUC and Labour movement that are here. Let me start by appreciating the fact that our chairman, who has always been on duty, anytime he's invited, particularly by trade unions, Comrade Femi Falana, Senior Advocate of the Masses, is here with us. Thank you very much, sir. His Excellency, the Deputy Governor of Jigawa State, who we used to be together on the board of National Health Insurance Scheme, and happy you have remained committed to the plight and also the issues that affect the building of our system. My comrade, colleague, and friend, the President of the Trade Union Congress, Comrade Bala Boboe Kaigama, of whom we have worked together assiduously to represent all our interests. I'm happy you have led this organization to where it is today, and certainly is the wish of every leader to actually have a successful end. And I'm happy that we are here. Our country director of ILO, representative of the Service Chiefs and Inspector General of Police, representative of NECA. I can see also some of our very esteemed leaders on the high table. But importantly, I'm happy that I can see the leadership of TUC, particularly the veterans, from the first president to the digital one, Comrade Esele. I can see all of them here. I'm so excited that this conference has provided a platform for us to connect. Comrades, I bring you very warm fraternal greetings
from members and leadership of the Nigerian Labour Congress, as well as workers from around the world under the auspices of the International Trade Union Confederation. As we are aware, we are privileged in Nigeria to provide not only leadership to our country and continent, but also leadership to workers around the world. The International Trade Union Confederation, as we are aware, operates in 336 centers in 163 countries with a membership base of 207 million. And we are privileged to actually provide leadership. So I bring you their fraternal greetings. And all of you could recall recently in Geneva, when we said we are going to protest, workers of the world, we are going to protest because I'm happy the guest speaker have actually given us the tonic of what we need as workers around the world. Because the difference between NGO and workers' organization, labor union and trade union is the action. If it is about issuing statement on newspapers, there is no difference between NGO and then trade unions. Our organization is a mass-based organization, membership-based, and therefore our modus of operandi should be, one, the intellectual aspect, which Prof have given us, but to give effect to the theory of what he has said, we need to practicalize it. And practicalizing it means that when we say we are going to protest, the protest must take place. When we say we are going to picket, the picket must take place. When we say we want to change the rule, for the rule to work for the majority, we must be on the street to give effect to it. And therefore, when 2 months ago, I pronounced as president of TUC Global to say that there will be a protest in Geneva, Switzerland, at the ongoing ILC conference, and also to coincide with the centenary celebration of the ILO, we gave effect to that because workers from around the world, over 5,000 of them, gathered at the UN to protest that the rules of engagement must change to favor workers that create the wealth of the world. So, comrade, this is the rich tradition that we are coming from. We are coming from a rich tradition where our forebearers fought for the independence of our country, where our forebearers fought for democracy, where our forebearers fought for the right of every worker, including workers of Nigeria. There is nothing we have gotten on the platter of gold. Democracy was not given to us. Because if you read the issue of colonialism, is to the fact that they want to use us to continue to generate raw material for their industry to develop their country. That's the theory of colonialism. And military is an extension of colonialism because they choose who they will be in place to represent them. So also is democracy. We have seen democracy around the world being captured by economic power. From Brazil to Venezuela, we have seen how economic power is undermining democracy. And therefore, workers around the world, including in Nigeria, we must stand firm to defend our democratic tenets. Our leaders need our engagement. If not, they will be captured, even by the economic power. Capital has been consolidating, but yet they have put rules to divide workers. They want workers to be divided so that they will have a field day. So, comrade, this conference provides us yet an opportunity to interrogate where we are coming from and what we need to do to change the rules. The rules cannot be changed through wishful thinking. That is a fact. If Nigerians will continue to be in wishful thinking, the situation will not change. Our leaders must be instigated to change the rule because there are foreign powers. In fact, I know of this of recent when we had a meeting with the leadership of ITUC, with the leadership of World Bank and IMF in Washington, D.C. That was my first meeting. And when I hear the language of capital, I know that certainly workers are in trouble. The language of capital is more profits. More profit is not about the social security cover or social justice. And that is why the issue of automation and the use of technology is cropping in. It's not because of the fact that they cannot be able to employ workers to be able to continue to drive the process of development. No, it's because they want to maximize profit. And therefore, we must continue to be working. We must continue to work together. There is no division between us because the issues of worker are the same. If they want to divide us around any line, we should resist that. And that is what they have used, actually, to bring Nigeria to where it is today. Even the issue of insecurity in our country. I've seen what our armed forces have done and I want to commend them. But I think going further, yesterday I was reflecting, and I said, how can a poor Nigerian acquire an AK-47 weapon and be fighting a poor compatriot Nigerian? Something must be wrong. You can see somebody that cannot feed himself. Yes, he's handling AK-47. Somebody must be responsible. And the connect, which we are not told, who is acquiring this weapon for the poor Nigerian to fight poor Nigerian. It is something that we have not interrogated. Until we interrogate this theory and found out who is supplying the weapon, the issue of insecurity in Nigeria cannot be handled. The security agents will be fighting the poor, who are Nigerians that have been deprived. But yet, somebody somewhere is actually supporting the supplying the weapon and also instigating the division and also the insecurity. The starting point is, have we been able to find out who are the sponsors? Expose them, because when you buy weapon around the world, the source of the weapon will be known. The person that bought the weapon will be known. And therefore, I think that is the first step of addressing the issue of insecurity in Nigeria. And without addressing the issue of insecurity, development will actually elude us. Labour have played a major role in national development. From Labour leader number one, Pamakel Imodu. In the beginning of the process of development of this country, particularly period before independence, all of us are aware of the role that Labour movement played, and particularly him, who was, I think, deputy to the person that was leading that party, I think Herbert Macaulay. And after the demise of Herbert Macaulay, before Nnamdi Azikiwe took over, all of us knew the role he played. So clearly speaking, there is political consciousness among workers and the working class, and even before the independence. So clearly we must reconnect, because the issue of development and democracy are so linked together that you cannot change policy if you are not even within the system. And that's why I have celebrated some of our colleagues that have tried to venture into politics, because we have seen that work around the world. In Brazil, what changed the situation of Brazil was when Lula from CUT is like our counterpart, like TUC or NLC. He was the president of CUT. And after 4 attempts, he formed the Workers' Party of Brazil. And after 4 attempts, they actually acquired political power. And it is on history today that he is the only president with social intervention program that have lifted over 40 million workers and citizens from below the poverty line to the level of prosperity and shared prosperity. It's a record that is not broken, and that's why they are fighting tooth and nail not to have such a system in place. So, comrades, I think we have a lot to do, and we require all our system and all our organs and all our members, particularly the State Council, to conform with our very rich tradition. Lastly, on the issue of the minimum wage have never been at awards. Anywhere around the world you hear about minimum wage or even better conditions of service, they are not given to us. And that's why the struggle is very important. And therefore, I want to make this point very clear. I am happy that the Jigawa State Governor, as usual, have said that they are ready to pay. I've also heard states like Oyo, the governor saying he's not able to pay. But before his election, he said he's going to pay. We are going to fight them tooth and nail. It's already a law. It's already a law, and they have sworn to uphold the sanctity of our laws. We have enough in this country. We have enough if there is prudency. The challenge and problem of Nigeria is not an act of God. It's actually man-made. It's not an act of God. And that's why I'm not surprised. Even while we are fighting this minimum wage, I remember one of the governors who came to the public hearing and was talking from both sides of his mouth. I'm not surprised that at the end of the process, his entire political structure in that state was actually wiped out. And you know what he said? He said, it's the act of God. And I said, no, it is a punishment from God. It's really a punishment from God. What has happened? Yes, it's an act of God, but it's like a punishment for what has been done, which is not right. Before I end this address, I must pay a special tribute to our very good friend and colleague, Comrade Johnson. He's somebody that all of us have celebrated. He's somebody that has provided leadership. He's somebody that has all the attributes of a good leader. And therefore, I must pay my very special tribute on this very important day. In fact, as I was seated there, I recalled a quotation that was usually quoted by late James Audu. Most of us have I think, watched one of my favorite NTA programs, A Chance to Meet. At the beginning of that presentation, in each of the episodes, there is a statement he usually said. And that statement actually catched my attention. And I was seated there, I recalled, and he said, and I quote, "For every one of us, men or women, the have and the have not, there is a time to be born and there is a time certainly to die. In between is the privilege to serve. Let us serve to the glory of God. Let us serve to the benefit of humanity." End of quote. And therefore, I leave us with that word. As workers, as leaders, in between the time we live is the privilege to serve humanity. Let us do our best in all circumstances to represent this very important constituency, the poor workers, the poor pensioners that have no voice except the voice we're able to speak on their behalf. We must speak to power. If we cannot speak to power, certainly we cannot be labor leaders. And therefore, I challenge all of us, including our state councils, we must go back to collaborate. There is no time for division, because the issue that is affecting workers and citizens of Nigeria require our intervention. And therefore, we must work assiduously to make sure that we address these challenges. It's not about shortage of resources. In fact, as we are seated there with SAN, we have found out that Nigeria is so enormously blessed. We have a lot of resources that have not been tapped. In AMCOM alone, people that have borrowed money, less than 300 people that have borrowed money from our commonwealth, from the banks, is about 5.1 trillion. This money is 5.5 trillion. This money has not been recovered, yet we are crying that it is no money, that we need to remove subsidy. What is subsidy? Let us define subsidy, because we need to interrogate the topic of subsidy. They have changed the language from the regulation now to subsidy. We need to interrogate, what are we subsidizing? Are we talking of removing the burden and now shifting the burden to citizens to continue to pay the inefficiency in the system? Certainly no, because if it is associated with increase in price, that will certainly be a burden to Nigerians. Everybody knows the situation we are in. The poverty level is very high. Inequality is extremely high. And therefore, certainly, there is no way even workers can actually bear any further increase, either of electricity or of this very essential product. Many countries around the world that are members of OPEC, that are oil producing, have found way to refine product. If we refine product for domestic use, we'll end the regime of so-called subsidy or deregulation. And therefore, that ends it completely. So which is of more benefit to us? God has blessed us with these resources. There is no country in the world that has oil that is not refining for the benefit of its citizens. Venezuela is one example of them. And therefore, when you are refining for your citizens, the issue of the so-called, what we call subsidy, that is the transportation of crude oil to and fro, some of the charges, some of the taxes that are associated with this issue will go. And therefore, that will end forever. And therefore, we can use this money to actually develop our infrastructure. This is what is required. It's not rocket science. It's about putting the facts on the table so that we can look at the issues and interrogate the issues. So that the policies we are talking about, we need to interrogate them. And therefore, our leaders need the support of labor. They need the perspective of labor, because once leaders assume office, it is expected that they should also have feedback from the people that elected them. This is what is expected. And that's what Labour have been doing, and will continue to do that. So once again, I bring you very warm fraternal message from the Nigerian Labour Congress, from our leadership, and I wish you a very successful conference. Long live Labour unity. Long live working class solidarity. Long live Trade Union Congress of Nigeria. Long live Nigerian Labour Congress. Long live the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Victory.
There is victory for us. Thank you very much, comrades. Comrade Ayuba Waba, President, Nigerian Labour Congress, President of the ITUC, never doubt his oratorial skills. Distinguished comrades, let me just take out a few moments again and recognize some key participants in this conference. First, we'd like to welcome very warmly His Royal Majesty, Dr. Abdurazak Adebayo Abiyoye, Ilufemiloye I of the Olukotun of Ikotunile. Kabiyesi. You know, comrades, a while ago we listened to Comrade Vice Chancellor. Now, my due apologies to the traditional institution. We do also have Comrade Kabiyesi. Let me also acknowledge the presence here of my very good friend, Comrade John Oda, MNI, Executive Secretary of OTUA, and of course, a former General Secretary of the Nigerian Labour Congress, Comrade John Oda. And this is also with recognition. Chief Dr. J.A. Okunade is Deputy Secretary General of the Nigerian Union of Pensioners. Thank you, sir. Distinguished delegates, at this point, let us now move over to the interactive session, and this is the point where I hand over to Glory.
Thank you very much, Cyril. I have to come down to do this, and the rules of engagement would be that we're taking one question or comment from every row so that we go into the other business of the day. So I will start from this other side for the interactive session, but unfortunately we can only take one person, and it is not a vote. It's the hands up first, and then we take it. So who goes?
Come here. If there's nobody.
Okay. I thought I was coming over to the elder side, so let me see from here. There's a hand behind here. Thank you.
I am Comrade Kenneth C. Oko, Academic Staff Union of Secondary Schools. My question is bordering on the position of implementation of the much highly sunk and danced around minimum wage from labor angle and from government angle, because when we go back from here, we have questions to answer to. The question is, what is the exact state and what is delaying the implementation? Because we have been thinking about it has been signed, we have celebrated, it has been signed. The purpose of the minimum wage, I know, is not signing, but it getting to the workers' hand. That is my question.
The answer will be provided by the presidents of the two labor unions. We take all the questions and then we come to the responses. Okay. Kabiyesi's hand is up. I cannot pretend I didn't see.
Solidarity forever. I have a style because there are always two sides in education. Their side, our side. So I recognize everybody at that side, those of us at this debate too. You are welcome to this conference. It's important for me to say a word or two because it's not common to find international ruler in the trade union activity big after he has left. Activism is important in can never depart from you. And the statement that whatever you become in life, your past is still a very good reflection of it. Many positions have been canvassed. I don't want to go into it. But there's still one thing I want us to share. When we were the program in Israel, I met a colleague in Uganda. That time, I was the national president of Food, Beverage and Tobacco Industry Association, and at the same time, first deputy president general of SESCA, now TUC. I was surprised they were calling him honorable, 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 and I inquired, how can a company be honorable? He shared an experience with me that I want us to work towards. He said in Uganda, there's a seat reserved exclusive for labor in their parliament. And it's left for labor to go and select who will represent them at the assembly. That is very crucial. We should get to that level. If we have a representative of the National Assembly, any anti-labor laws will be very difficult to pass. Most of the problem will be solved. Without taking much of your time, as I said, let us consider it and work towards it. We need a seat in the National Assembly to protect workers' interests. Thank you very much and welcome.
Is there no woman on our agenda? On this floor, no woman? Oh, Melissa Remo is here. I'm sorry. His hand was up before yours.
Our agenda, women are great. Well, I just want to also have my voice to salute our guest lecturer, Professor. I think another that did very well. What I find quite useful with this presentation is that, in spite of the challenges that we have, I think I'm happy you properly documented the role of labor in nation building. Today we are talking of the minimum wage. This is actually the fourth national minimum wage. It started in 1981. You won't believe it. South Africa just got the first minimum wage just this year. So even as challenging at the current time, I think it's good to bring out some of the good progress we have made. And I'm happy you also emphasize the role of labor in terms of to struggle for democracy. And I'm happy the Congress president brought it out very well. At this one area, I think we need to compliment your presentation. You made that point, we should fight constitutionalism and work for that. Not just to engage in bourgeois democracy, but one thing must lead to the other. And I think we should not shy away from liberal democratic process. The example Comrade Ayuba gave very well of Brazil, they took advantage of bourgeois liberal democratic process. And workers formed their workers' party, they produced Lula to become the president of Brazil, and with that record achievement. Of course, that struggle continues because the forces of reaction are fighting back. Also South Africa, the current president of South Africa now, Cyril Ramaphosa, was the first general secretary of COSATU. He also came for trade government. So I think we should not shy away because the politics is monetized. We are not totally helpless. And I want to say, as the former candidate of Labour Party in Kwara State, in spite of the monetization of politics, we combine together with progressive forces under Otoge Odogme campaign process to put an end to 16 years of PDP dictatorship in Kwara State. That tells you that there's hope. But I think we should reform Labour Party, we should reposition it, and I want to salute the NSC and TUC for the good job they are doing, so that we can position the Labour Party in a way that we can make a lot of impact. Don't forget that Labour Party also produced governor. Adam started under Labour Party in Edo State. In Ondo State, Mimiko ran under our platform He became two-time governor. I don't know where he is now, but once he abandoned Labour, he also lost out. So I want to say that workers should not lose the, under this democratic system. We can reposition, revert the comrade Goodwill. I know your experience in Taraba, and I think the youngest I used to call him the youngest TUC president. He should return back to Labour Party, so that 2030 we should make a lot of impact and complement the struggle that we have made over the years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade Issa Aremu, MNR. And finally,
Mr. President, my name is Comrade Dr. Elder Honorable Akandawa. Akandawa hails from Akwa Ibom State. And my lecturer, sir, do you think we still need this presidential system of governance? Do we need two houses? One is earning 30 million a month, the other one is earning 12 million. Multiply all of them together, it's more than minimum wage for all the workers of Nigeria. Can't we go back to the one I met? At least I'm old enough to know that there were times we were not doing presidential system, where we have the Houses of Commons, we have everybody doing parliamentary. Nigeria will never progress if we continue presidential system of governance. That's the truth. The man I elected in my local government, immediately he was sworn in, they gave them chief. I have been working for 30 years, I have on my chief. The man that is earning 13 million, where is his father? Is he selling Delegate? Is he selling salt? So that he will have that kind of money. If we don't address that, we are going to strike for them. I think that's when Labour Party. Seeing us being serious to fight for them by stopping the bourgeois from continuing in these macabre times, which I call banditry. Thank you very much.
thank you so very much. Mr. President, sir, over to you.
Thank you very much, comrades. I think you have raised the great issues. The first one raised by His Royal Highness, I think, is a fact. What obtains from Pan-African countries. What obtains from Eastern African countries.
With this, we have come to the end of the 11th Triennial National Delegate Conference of the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria, which has dwelled largely on the need for workers to resist what can divide them, particularly when such attempt is coming from members of the political class. So Labour warned that political consciousness among workers before independence to be reignited. On behalf of the entire members of the outside broadcast queue, I'd like to say thank you for being with us. More interesting programs continue from our studios across the country. I am Emmanuel Ayemi Rose saying bye for now.
Facebook at NTA Network News, Instagram at NTA Network, Twitter at NTA News Now, YouTube at NTA News Online, or visit www.nta.ng. For live streaming, visit www.nta.ng/live. Now, you can stay updated on the go, be it on your TV, iPhone, laptop, or iPad, or download the NTA mobile